on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high, sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel a heartbeat as one. Celebrating song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for Caracom. The great and diverse being are
Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program On Target. And as soon as we start this program, you can pick up the telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything: politics, religion, socio-economic issues, any issue trending. But most important, you can introduce your own topic. You can interrupt us anytime. We'll stop in the middle of a sentence and take what you have to say. We have no rules, except we encourage people to respect one another. You know, no matter what you're saying, we need to do it respectful. The democratic process gives us an opportunity to exchange ideas and disagree with one another. I express my opinion on any subject matter I'm comfortable with. But if I get new information, I change in my opinion. My opinion is not cast in stone. It is based upon the information I have and my own prejudice. Today is October, and it is Child Month, a very important period in Grenada, the Caribbean, and everywhere else. A child is a gift from God. The circumstances under which you have that child may be unacceptable, may be deplorable, but the child is a gift of God. There are a lot of people that are in the hospital today, and the people who wiping the bam is not even the children. Some of the people who taking care of them might be children that they never even try to improve. Your neighbor's children that you never pay heed to, perhaps you could have offered a word to console them and help educate them. They may be your in-laws, and they might be the parents of your grandchildren. Always remember that. A child is a gift from God. I believe that a parent is anybody over 18 years who could influence your child. Sometimes you do your utmost in your home, and then by the time your child reaches secondary school and move out from your home, the community influence your child otherwise. So that is a responsibility for all of us. It's also October. It is the month of the Rosary. It is when Catholics are encouraged in particular to pray the Rosary every day, to pray with your family. You know what it is for a family to be able to sit down and pray together? So much of conflicts in home, so much of war. Man and woman fighting where they put the bath towel. They're fighting for the soap. All sorts of unproductive fights in the house. You hardly hear arguments about investment or education or health issues. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Great, man.
Yeah, Mr. Trying to focus this afternoon speaking about permanent and contract.
Go right ahead.
I remember in the campaign, you have the NDC was in town hall all over the country, stating that the government of the day want to get rid of workers because so that is the reason why they give them contract, so they could fire them at will whenever they ready to do that. But I remember during the COVID period, a lot of workers, because of the situation in the pandemic, they lost their job. But the government never sent home anybody. What they did, The people that were working in the private sector, and they were home, the government reach out. Even some of the business, the government reach out and the government help them with package. Right? With package. Never sent home. I remember in Barbados, yesterday where about 500 persons was sent home from the job. I remember that same day, you have a husband, a wife, and a son was sent home from the job because of the difficulties. And I always say, if a man out of a job, Mr. Pierre, and then you give him a job, and you give him a choice, well, either permanent contract or not, because at the time you cannot employ everybody, right? Permanent. So what the government is doing, the government says, well, it's better to employ somebody on a contract so that but they're receiving a salary than to keep them home, right? So what you find happening now, the same thing the NDC said, how the government send home people. This is exactly what they're doing. Because we can work on contract, it taking advantage of it and send home people. The question I'm asking myself is all the people on contract is NNP. I'm sure he has NDC people that was on contract. They go home too. And what if I so disheartening with that? The same people get rid of contract. What did you do? Did you making the people that you employ permanent? It's same contract. The same contract they said was illegal. It is illegal, but we're still doing it. You're still doing it. I feel like even like you add 6 and 6 is 12, and next year add 6 and 6 is 12. What did the teacher will do? The teacher will put one right for one student and the next one wrong for the other student. Well, 6 and 6 are 12. So no matter the person put here, they put the same answer. You hate one and you like the other. Two of them are correct. So if two of them, if you say one is wrong, by the illegal, by putting people on contract, it is also wrong and it always be wrong. So if something wrong, why you still continue making people permanent, putting people on contract? Right? So I want to say again to people, you have to know what's going on. You have to know what's going on. You have to know your right. And what I do really is tell people to stand up for their right and do it in a more respectful way. In a more respectful way. So
Yes,
have a
Colin.
blessing.
Thank you, Colin. I think this is a good opportunity for the rank and file Grenadians to educate yourself about the public service and the parallel service. It's an important thing. In this whole meet, I tend to chastise the trade union leaders. I believe the trade union leaders, in particular, the Trade Union Council, where we have stalwarts there who have been in the story a long time, ought to have known that the National Democratic Congress was on the wrong trajectory. And they should have opened their mouth there and then and helped. Prior to the election, I asked, who is the advisor to the National Democratic Congress? Some of the statements they were making, I thought it was totally unacceptable and was misleading. Now, politics is going to excite things, and sometimes a political group stretch the truth. They sex up the truth. They expand the truth. But to openly tell Grenadians that you're going to make everybody that work with government permanent, I believe was misleading. It was wrong. It was unacceptable. It was disfiguring the truth. You see, we have the public service, and with time, we changed the CSA, the Civil Service Association, to the public service. And Grenada moved from a country where the majority of people was employed with agriculture. Now, agriculture, the banana industry collapsed. The big estate collapsed. And after we had the Land for the Landless program, although more people in Grenada had lands, they were not able to employ their children in this land. The children got educated. Remember, Gary built 28 schools in 13 and a half years. People went to university and they looked for jobs. So every government that came expanded the public service. And we didn't grow the economy. So here you have a public service, but government is the biggest employer. Government has invested in tourism immensely. While they hope that this investment they are making in tourism, the service industry, the University of the West, the University of the St. George's University, etc., going to help absorb the unemployed people. But of a lot of our people who are unemployed, they don't have the skills to get the jobs in that area. So government has been left with massive unemployment that they have to address. So at least either I do not believe the Dickens Mitchell NDC did not know about it. Because you had fellas like Andrew there, and you had a number of individuals who was in the public service that knew. And even some of the transition team that was working close with them knew. So they could have educated them. They could have educated them. So I believe they sat down and planned to provide a package that would attract Grenadians. In addition to that, the National Democratic Congress seems to have the natural affinity to show little sensitivity to the ordinary Grenadians or the people who fall in the lower income bracket. Why do I say that? Because when you make a statement like that, you must say why. Look at what the NDC did when we had the structural adjustment program, the homegrown structural adjustment program. The workers who suffered most was the workers in the lower echelons of society. The Maryboy Cultural Station, the Ashington, the Propagators, and the estate. These were the workers that was fired. In 2008, who suffered most under NDC? The old people that was in seed program. Some of them played Provident Fund, and they didn't get any money. And then the NDC removed them from the Provident Fund. In addition to the e-money. Yes, scholar, welcome. Yeah, so you see, it seems it's a natural thing for the National Democratic Congress to immediately go after these people. In this situation now, yes, caller, welcome.
Hey, how are you doing, brother?
Yes, my brother, great.
Man, I just learned from a source there that almost all groundsmen in the cricket stadium or in the stadium got a letter today, a dismissal letter today, man. That was sad.
Do you, I'm very careful when we are saying that because I want some concrete proof. So normally, I try to get a letter from that session.
Yeah.
So because I have about 4 or 5 letters from Karaku, I take it as gospel.
Okay.
And I've seen letters from the people from Pause. So one of the ways I could get to set a talk about it, to try to see if you get one of them to post me the letter. They could erase their name if they're afraid.
Right.
But it's important that when we're speaking on the radio, we say things where people cannot challenge us. Because I constantly ask people to challenge me if I'm wrong. Yeah? So it's important. If workers are fired and you want us to talk about it, you must speak to us personally or post your letters to us. And if you could always get my telephone number, you have WhatsApp now, and you could post one of the letters to us. We could always verify it. If you scared that you might have more victimization coming to members of your family, because some people were extremely worried then you could cross out your name, but we're going to see the letters with the permanent secretary and government staff in it. And then it's easy for us to verify it. What is going on in Grenada now is wrong. The National Democratic Congress is doing political cleansing. And I have said on numerous occasions, that never happened in Grenada, except during the revolution. In the revolution, there was jailing and firing counter-revolutionaries. So it doesn't matter whether he was a gay right, whether he was an old GNP, whether he was a revolutionary. And let me give you an example. Kenny Lalsine and Lloyd Noel and Dr. Japal was more from the GNP end, but they supported the alliance. They was in jail. Kennedy Boudlal might have helped round them up, but Kennedy Boudlal ended up in jail with them too. Winston White was an old gay right, he ended up in jail. So the revolution was jailing counter-revolutionaries. They jailed 3,000 Grenadians. And I know we have some comrades that like to challenge me. If you have any doubt, call Tillman Thomas before you challenge me. He was a senior lawyer there. He was a human rights lawyer. And he went to jail because he go and complain why they're jailing people and they jail him. The lawyer that pee himself, when he go to Maurice Bishop and beg Maurice Bishop, Bishop tell him, if you come back one more time, I send you in jail. He pee himself. And he go home and he just say nothing again. Mr. Blaze, when they threatened Mr. Blaze, he went in Karakou, he sit down on the rock in his chair and he prayed for the Americans to come. Ben Jones was a lawyer. He smiled and he waved everybody you see. Little children, Pierre, everybody waved them and he smiled. They never jailed him. In this situation now, what they're doing is looking for green people. People they believe vote for green. This is why the government set up the Ministry of Mobilization. Mobilization ministry is always common in socialist country. And that name comes from Germany. During World War II, they had the Ministry of Propaganda. So mobilization is more like propaganda. A number of Grenadians during the revolution was trained in propaganda and mobilization. Now they say it's Ministry of Implementation. Well, yes, you need implementation because you always have a number of projects and they have a term they call it. Sometimes 60–80% of the work you plan is not achieved because of bottlenecking and other bureaucracy. So implementation, normally you have an individual, is like an expediter to find out why is it this project is not moving. It could be somebody that go on holiday or somebody have a letter to function or whatever. But it's the Prime Minister, based upon an interview we observe in social media, and since government has not disassociated themselves with that interview, one have to assume that maybe it is true. He said it is not so much transformation, but it's restorative justice. So you have Ministry of Mobilization, Ministry of Implementation, restorative justice, and some strong NDC say is detoxification. And Andy is responsible for that. Now what is going on is not right. And maybe a lot of Grenadians shutting them out. And some people say NDC just come. But what the National Democratic Congress doing is vulgar politically. It is not correct. And maybe they don't understand yet. It's going to cause fracture in the village. The government decided that the principals of schools is the one to appoint or to employ auxiliary staff. So if you are firing people who work 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 years, they're losing their job, then the school will not employ them because you fire them from government. And I don't know to what extent the NDC, who are strong private sector members, would employ these people. Now, this is wrong. This is going to backfire. This is not in the interest of the NDC. The same people you told, don't worry about your job. We're going to make you permanent. And they vote for you in droves. Because I believe the decision for the election, you saw the movement on the ground within the last 2 weeks. Now you are getting rid of these people. When you get rid of 5 or 6 women who have been working 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 years in one community, you're creating serious fracture, division, and hatred. You see, I saw it in the revolution. In the revolution, we used to have mock executions. Mock executions. So they take some people and say to them, you will be executed. And in 1 or 2 instances, they will line up against the same wall on the foot that Morris Bishop was lined up on. They would bow their eyes. They would give the command to the soldiers to get a gun. I don't know how the command is in firing squad in the military. I never observed any. But they would make them clang the guns. And they would tell them fire. And then these guys would make songs with their mouth. That's how the AK sung. Now just imagine, in one instance, listen to that, after they brought us to the cells, which was covered by galvanized and barbed wire, there we spent 42 days. I was in a bad condition. And a doctor by the name of Nurse Gittins gave me 3 tablets. And he said, spit in my mouth and swallow some. He didn't give him water. After they beat up this individual, the Bajan Bobby, he said, why are you not crying? Why are you not seeing any tears in your eyes? The guy said, well, they told him he'll be executed this evening. So it don't make sense he crying. You know, that was after they pump out his toenail. And he was one of the individuals that was in a mock execution. Now, all these things is taking place. When you have a government, while they were in opposition, they went and dabbled in the spirit of the dead. They claim they're evoking the spirit of the dead. The spirit of an individual who died by violent means. Anyone who studies metaphysics or spirituality would know that if you go and interfere with the spirit of someone who dies violently, it is very difficult to control those spirits, even if you claim you are pro. This is why these things is so important in the month of October. Remember, we're in the month of October. October 19 was when Grenada had the worst crimes in Grenada. In fact, the 4.5 years of the revolution The revolutionaries supervised over the worst crimes in Grenada after slavery and colonialism. People was executed on the foot. You had the bodies. Sometimes it is said that they had to take spade to help to pick up some of the bodies. The bodies were burnt. The remains were then buried. It is alleged, it is said that after the American invasion, the remains was dug up. And I believe that too. And the Americans go with the remains. And now we had the NDC, the National Democratic Congress, trying to summon up the spirit of a man who died under that circumstances. What for? When somebody dies, you say, may his soul rest in peace. It's a prayer. Irrespective how somebody died. Irrespective how somebody died. People pray that a soul be rest in peace. There are instances in Grenada where you hear individuals trying to dabble in the occult or trying to evoke the spirit of the dead to find out to help the living. But I've never heard in my life about a group trying to participate in that. And I think all these things must be taken into context. All these things must be. Does the NDC realize that you gave the public your word that people would not lose their job, but you would make them permanent? So one have to wonder why within the space of 3 months or 1 month, after you make such a strong promise publicly, that you forget that. And is in this context, I ask, is it as a result of you dabbling in evoking people's spirit that make you get confused and disoriented in terms of what you promise? And the people you are targeting is the people in the lower income bracket group. Almost like a bully. Because it's difficult for you to touch public officers. You know. They're well protected. Public officers that are appointed under the Public Service Commission, they're well protected. It is difficult for you to touch them. You could transfer them to a place of equal status, but it's difficult to fire them. Because if you do, you're going to have the wrath of the union. But the union doesn't seem to care about the members who pay them money. But they don't consider these members as appointed by the Public Service Commission. What is going on in Grenada is interesting. I would really like to hear, well, I know some of our trade unions, some of our journalists, they get very cozy and photogenic. But eventually we might have to appeal to the journalists in the Caribbean to start to ask Dick Mitchell or the journalist in Tobago to ask him, why? Why did you evoke the spirit of Maurice Bishop? Why did you dabble in a dead man's spirit? Why did you promise the Grenadian contract workers that you're going to make them permanent? That you could fix that with a stroke of a pen? And instead, you fire them. Nobody wouldn't object if you didn't fire anybody. But you're firing people with 8, 9, 10 years. There are some individuals in Grenada, for political reasons, is trying to justify that was done before. Well, even if it was done 10 years ago, you had the opportunity to object to it and it was wrong. How could you do it now? And it was not done 10 years ago. Every government is accused of showing favor to their supporters in employment. But you are singling out people who work 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 years and firing them. That cannot be right. And there is no justification for that. Because you meet a treasury that is not empty. And you got $10 million from Saudi Arabia that you didn't plan for. And at first, the NDC is in a haste to victimize these individuals. They can't even wait for the contract to end. Some people contract 1 month away. They say, go now, don't wait. And I think that is wrong. I think that is wrong. I want to take on an individual on social media. Nobody can tell you what to say on your program, or don't come to say how to start this program or get off. Now, normally on the program, I provide opportunity for people to call. I will express my views and opinion on political issues. I fear no subject matter. And if you ask me a question, I answer it to the best of my opinion. I ain't tongue long. I saw the victimization that took place under the revolution. 3,000 people was placed in prison. 3,000 to 4,000 people left the country. I listened to the court in Grenville when the gentleman claimed he was castrated. And I wonder, how could we do that to our brothers and sisters? I heard these stories personally from policemen who claim they pung out a toenail with a broomstick and a hammer. I've heard some stories that still bring so much emotion out of the individuals that sometimes they walk away in the middle of the stories. They can't finish it. Some horror stories. So a lot of people like to glorify the revolution without speaking about some of the wrongs and excesses that was done. If you meet a Gary Wright in Grenada, he would never tell you that Gary called on the Tonton Makut. I heard it when he called. He said all the voluntary constabularies for the protection of human rights, each one bring a friend and tell a friend to bring 3 friends. No women and children. Gary always did not want women come down. So that day in St. George's, he had between 500 to 1,500 young men. Depends on who you speak to. If you speak to a Gary Wright, he might tell you 200 to 500. If you speak to a Jewel, he might tell you 1,500 or more. And they was singing, Jewel, behave yourself. They go try us for murder. And there were thousands of supporters of Maurice Bishop, including women and children. In fact, the majority of them. Because Bishop used to send Chuck in the schoolhouse to take the school children away to go and demonstrate. So I believe I can express my opinion on these things. But if you have information or you think that I'm saying something wrong, please challenge me. So Mr. Reginald Amanda, and this gentleman, he says, stop your nonsense. NNP lost, and is that. Well, I don't think the National Democratic Congress, it is the first election in a long time they don't cry foul. the NNP did not cry foul. They were flogged. They were beaten. They conceded. And they extended the olive branch to the NDC. So the NNP is not complaining about the loss. And if NNP complain about the loss, that is their business. That's that's on target on the phone. You know? So when I saw one from Onisto, you always talk about the contract workers. You and I know that it was the NNP who loved their supporters so much that they refused to make their own permanent. I know the Pierre made the promise and will honor it, but you have to realize the administration is working in on a budget and just can't make workers permanent without allocation of funds to certain ministry. I know the administration will honor the promise, but not in 100 days, and so far, they already did well in the shop. But that is my partner, Onisto. Onisto, I'm not speaking about making workers permanent. I'm speaking that the NDC is firing workers. Workers who spend 8, 9, 10, 15 years on the job. The National Democratic Congress is sending them home. Honestly, I'm not speaking about male workers. I don't care about them. I'm speaking about those female workers that spend 8, 9 years on the job. And the National Democratic Congress is firing them without any justification. And that is how I challenge them. If our journalists refuse to challenge them, we're going to have to appeal to the journalists in the Caribbean to ask them the questions when they go away. Because Onisto, Deacon Mitchell promised no one would lose their job. He promised he would make them permanent. What he is doing now is to fire in the workers that they believe were NNP. That is political cleansing. He's looking for green blood. Onisto, that is wrong. This thing is going to backfire. You're going to create hate in the community. Because remember, there are some family members where you have NNP and NDC and they're moving good. So if you fire the women in the family, some of the sons are NDC, and you fire the mother. 8 years in the service, 9 years in the service. Some of them from St. Andrews. They're going to start a call on the radio. This is wrong. And the other people should guide Deacon Mitchell and tell him he's wrong. And honestly, you should tell him that too. Those workers he is firing, he have no intention of making them permanent. Honestly, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he said the good people in St. Patrick paid vote for him. He was thanking the good people from St. Patrick's. Honestly, a lot of mistakes have been made. They set up, the Prime Minister said in an interview with the people from Tobago, that has been around long. He should already disassociate himself from the statement if he didn't make it. So I am repeating it because I hear it on social media and I believe they have not disowned it. That it is not transformation. It is restorative justice. These things you have to deal with. The National Democratic Congress have the history of always going after the poor, the marginalized, the people in the lower income group. Honesto, they did the same thing when they had the homegrown structural adjustment program. They did the same thing in 2008. They promised to raise the old people pay to $400 and to raise the Imani pay to $1,000. Honesto, they fire 5 people from Paraclete alone, 5 women. One of them this year reached 99. That is the youngest out of the group. Honesto, one of them had 14 children. And she was blind. They removed 5 women. Go and do the research. I tell you the village. Paraclete. At Sutton, you're getting about 10. But I only say 5. So this is wrong. And I don't know what senior members of the National Democratic Congress, why they're not advising the NDC that they're on the wrong trajectory. Grenada have a small country. So if they decide to incorporate victimization as part of their policies, would people in the private sector who are militant NDC supporters, would they employ people who are known to be green? You see how you tear in your country asunder? What is going to happen to the schools with the firebrand teachers that are on social media? And I could only describe it as advocating hate. How would they treat children, ministers' children, unknown loudmouth NNP, or political activists from the NNP? How will they deal with the children in school? Honesto, would principals of school employ known NNP people? Yes, caller, welcome.
Good day, sir.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
Well, I was told that the Imani will be made permanent because they are contract workers. But on Friday, I met a Imani girl.
Yeah, go ahead. You cut off.
Imani was
Yeah.
writing a letter.
She had a letter?
Now, what's that doing?
She got a letter?
Yes, to go home.
When you see these things, you know, one of the things is good to know is to get a copy of the letter. Because we're willing to speak about it, but you could get a copy of the letter. If she don't want her name ping out, she could cover her name and take a cell phone picture of it. So we could always verify it because we would see the stamp of the company and the letterhead. But when we want to speak about these things with a measure of accuracy, so we could dare the National Democratic Congress to challenge us. So if you get a copy of the letter, and if she afraid she family will be victimized, tell her cover the name.
She said she just took a loan from somewhere on she contract.
Well, the purpose they fire in them, they want them rub the dust in the face.
Okay.
That is why they want life as hard as possible for those who are in green. That's why they fire them. You see, some of the political activists is encouraging them. They want to have a good laugh. You see the pleasure on the Minister of Labor face when she said she wasn't paying the workers. So I think the National Democratic Congress is enjoying the moment presently now. Yeah? Yeah. Yes, scholar, thank you. Yeah, I think this is important. As you contact us, as you get your letters, it will be good to send us a copy. You know, Onisto told me once it was only 4 people. He said, I'm challenging you today to bring any one of the people who've been sent home on your program, because I think that the people will be here. Onisto, you want to go after the people in the school. Why we avoiding bringing them on our program? We're afraid that children will be discriminated against. Honesto. One of the reasons we are not bringing them on our program is because we fear that the children will be discriminated against in school. But it's all right. We're going to get one who don't care or who don't have a child in school. Some of them have children in school on this too. And that's why they don't want a name. Because they're afraid you're going to go after the children in school. You see, that's why you set up the Ministry of Mobilization. That's why some of you speaking about detoxification. You know, I don't know when our journalists are going to start to ask Dick Mitchell. It seems that the other ministers in hibernation, so they are not exposing themselves. Remember, they said information is on need-to-know basis. And now they're not coming every Tuesday after cabinet. So they start to hide from the press. So we might have to appeal to journalists in the Caribbean to ask them those questions when they meet them on this too. On this show, you could ask them too. You know? Yeah, I think it's important we do. And as I said before, we're in the month of October. Yeah, we have a caller. Yes, caller, welcome.
Hey, Pierre, what's up, Solia?
Great, man.
Yeah, let me tell you, man. It is an Imani government we have, you know, that running the country.
Well, they're kind of young, but one expected them to be more compassionate and, you know, keep to the water. Yeah.
But the manifesto is to divide and rule.
You see, they gave the people the impression, and it's sad when you trick this, you know, the unsuspecting people. Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, you're on the right target, man. You're giving the public straight talk, and I appreciate that. Educating the public of what the wrongdoing the government is doing. The honeymoon time is over, and it's time for them to put their foot to the pedal.
Yeah.
So keep up the good works, bro.
Yes, brother. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's so difficult to stomach this issue. We saw it go on in the revolution. Everybody says a revolution. What do you expect? Could you imagine a young boy coming to school? I'm going to always be giving you these stories because a lot of people, the revolution was in 1979, 40-something years ago. So a lot of people don't know about the revolution. They only know about the things they read. A young boy was out at the Pioneer. He come home, and his stepfather, he and his stepfather never used to go down good. So he come home and he met his stepfather eating on the table. His mother wasn't there. He pulled out the gun from the bag, pulled the chair and rest it on the table near his stepfather, and he tell him, move. The stepfather get up at the house, move out. That happened the Monday evening. He met for his brother. The brother said, well, make Trinidad. Tuesday he was on the boat. He spent 7 years in Trinidad before he come back. It takes a few days for the woman to go to the brother to ask about your man. The man say, well, don't say nothing because your son make him move. Tell him to run. Those were the things that went on in Grenada. And people doing as if the only thing that went on is what they hear from the orator. Maurice Bishop was an orator. He was extremely charismatic. Some of the things that he said was pertinent in the international community and was very attractive. But remember, 3,000 to 4,000 Grenadians left Grenada. 3,000 people was in jail, including Tillman Thomas. And Tillman Thomas only go in jail because he object to those who go in jail. Mr. Blaze went back in Carriacou and he sit down on the rocking chair and he prayed for the Americans to come. Ben Jones waved everybody. Pierre, everybody, Uncle Ben waving, and he's smiling. So they didn't touch Uncle Ben. And the lawyer from Grenville, he pee himself and he go home and he hush him out. This was the environment in Grenada then. The gentleman was castrated. You don't have to believe me, you know. The prelim, I listened to the case in the Grenville courthouse. And we have a number of instances where in the individual, once you are PRA, you must hear about Bobby, the Bajan that was there to help supervise torture in Grenada. These were the stories here. This is why democracy is so important. Kit Mitchell liberalized the telecommunication network. So we have a lot of radio programs and a lot of radio stations. And some of us fear not, fear no one, and will speak on the issues. And we dare you to challenge us. This is the month of October, and it's a period in Grenada when we had the worst crimes committed. Maurice Bishop and several members of the cabinet was executed. Maurice Bishop refused to turn it back. He refused to turn it back. We have a caller on the line. Yes, caller.
How you doing?
Great, man.
Good afternoon to you listening and Jane others.
Yeah, my brother.
Mr. Pierre, I heard you compare the NDC from 1990 to 95. And also from 2008 to 2013. And you are saying they are the same NDC of today.
They does the same thing, like they go after the poor man anytime they come in power. Anytime the National Democratic come in power, the first objection people have, and people don't understand why they're going after these poor people and them. They did it in 2008, and now they're doing it. Everybody said give them a chance. When people say they find people losing their job, old people start to cry. Every time they come in power.
Yeah.
The NDC, watch me, NDC win 11 seats. Some people say that is the end of NNP. NDC win 9 seats now. They meet a treasury that pregnant. They have it on a silver platter. They have over 200 and something projects. They get $10 million from Saudi Arabia. What you going to fire these poor people for? Tell me. You don't find it strange?
Yeah, maybe something in the matter.
That is why I say maybe the spirit of Maurice Bishop. Why are you going to invoke dead people for? You can handle dead people. You do metaphysics and spirituality.
So, Mr. Pierre,
Yes, sir.
you don't see this NDC, new NDC as a new bloods, new heads?
Well, I was shocked. I really thought this time we have a better deal. I really thought that this group was better. I have said several times, I don't know Dick Mitchell. And the fact that he's a corporate lawyer, I've never heard nowhere in the Caribbean any corporate lawyer just come and go in politics. So I don't know if you have an ulterior motive, but I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay. I think, Mr. Pierre, we should give him some time still.
Well, he is not a socialist because obviously he wants to sell marketing board and electricity company. He's not a socialist. Secondly, he seems to believe that if you don't have if you don't have a good salary, you'll get corrupt. Money have nothing to do with corruption. You have some people, more money they have, more bad they become. You know that?
Yeah, you're right.
And you have some people that poor, and they still sharing with you. So money have nothing to do with corruption.
So you're saying because he's looking after salaries, so?
Well, why you find these poor people for? Women, $2,000 and people working for.
Mr. Pierre, you have all the names of the people that have been sent home? You have the names?
You know, I read out some letters. We can only store one me go after name. One woman who gave me information, she did not even want me to say where she working. She said, Mr. Pierre, my children going to school. Remember, the government give the principals of schools the authority to employ auxiliary staff.
Yeah.
Now you're doing that after a lot of people in the Grenada complained that you pay the teachers that did not work. And some people say it loud. So if you give the teachers the authority to employ auxiliary staff while you're firing the cooks in the school, you don't expect some people will get freed.
Those jobs, Mr. Pierre, are they politically appointed jobs?
But this is what I want the trade union to start to determine what is political jobs in Grenada and what is not.
Political jobs, Mr. Pierre, I think are jobs that are appointed by party, political organizations.
So if somebody send you as a result of a political group, you end up a teacher, do you have a political job?
Well, no, automatically you turn a public
So
servant.
the trade union now must come and determine what are political jobs in the country. And the union's not supposed to be taking money for people for 9 years and you still call them political jobs? You don't feel so? Huh?
I don't have much care, but I will call you back tomorrow.
All right. Okay, my brother. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Yes, my brother. Thank you very much. And these questions must be answered because we constantly talk about political jobs. So if the people had political jobs for 9-10 years and the union decide to abandon them, then the union must return the people union dues with interest. And the time has come for the TUC to discuss publicly or with the government what jobs are political jobs. Don't tell me you get a job to cook in a school and you're cooking there for 8-9 years and now a government come and say you have a political job. And we come to the end of our program today as usual. And remember, October, the month of the child, is the month of the rosary and is also October 19. That's a serious time. We're back with you tomorrow again between 12 and 1 when we have another opportunity to punch. Thank you very much.